I like the tape.
Yeah, me too. Hello, this is Phantastic, and I'm Colton Branscum. Thanks for joining us for our first show. I'm here today with Grayson Lawrence of Texas State University, where he is a professor of communication design. Today we're going to be talking about adaptability, and that's adaptability in dealing with one's career and adaptability in dealing with the tools of the trade. Grayson, you mostly deal with interactive web design stuff here at Texas State, but what avenue brought you into the design field?
The design field in general, or interaction design specifically?
Well, where'd you start with actual design?
Well, to be honest, just by accident, really. I started off as a chemistry minor in a biology major, aquatic biology major, at Texas State back in the 90s.
Wow.
And I always kind of thought myself, being a Jacques Cousteau character, I learned how to scuba dive, and that's what I was going to do. I was going to be scientific and everything.
Wow. Okay.
And I was actually I had a on-campus job selling computers at the bookstore, and here on campus, the campus bookstore, and just out of curiosity, we had all the demos of the software on the computers and on the floor there, and we had all this PageMaker that was the precursor to InDesign.
Oh wow, okay.
And so I started just kind of futzing around with that. We had a bunch of clip art. I started making just funny signs for the store, sales signs. I'd make up sales. We didn't even have sales. I mean, I would just make them up. And somebody came by and were like, "Wow, that's really good." And so I started making signs and name tags for everybody, and it was during a time where I was starting to feel kind of low because I was barely making it as a chemistry person. I could barely just scrape by. I loved it, but I was doing horribly at it, and I think it was like the fourth or fifth time I had burned myself with the Bunsen burner, and I was just feeling really low. I went to work that day feeling really low, and some guy came in and said, "Hey, do you know that there's this new program over in the art department that's all about advertising and design and stuff like that? You should check it out." And just kind of on a whim, I just went over there and started talking to the professors and said, what do you do?
Very cool.
Long story short, I changed my major and was happy ever since.
That's awesome. And was it just kind of a slow progression towards doing mostly web and interactive stuff, or did you immediately jump onto it?
Well, at the time, this was 93, 94. That's when Mosaic came out.
Okay.
NCSA Mosaic was the very first web browser that we would consider a modern web browser. And so we didn't have a class in it at all. And I just decided that one day I was like, this is really cool. I was looking at websites and stuff like that, and one of my friends had their own website. And this is back when link sites were a big deal, where you just make a site and all of it's just links of things that you like to other websites, right? So I just decided, well, I'll do that. I'll figure that out. And so I started looking into HTML and CSS and figured out and made my own little link website of all the things that I really liked.
Very cool.
And so that's kind of what started it. We didn't have a formal class in the undergrad at the time. Mm-hmm. In fact, we didn't get one really until right as I was graduating, maybe 99, 98. 2000, right in there. That's when I started. That's when I was about to graduate, and that's when we actually had a web class. But by that time, I kind of taught myself all that stuff. Anyway.
Yeah. So you were ahead of the curve.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. And I think even though I'm horrible at math, like I said before, I think the analytical side of my brain, the part of me that was still kind of the sciencey type person, I kind of took to the coding a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we in some of the readings from our class, Coy
Coy Vin.
Coy Vin, he talks about the internal satisfaction that being able to compartmentalize things and work, and it's kind of human nature, and it really kind of feeds that inner part of us. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, even if you don't consider yourself a logical person, it can be kind of interesting when you finally get something to work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So years later, you started right when things were getting hot. Today everybody's got a mobile device where they can access the internet and all kind of different media.
Right.
Do you think that the personal computer, as like a desktop computer, might become a thing of the past, and people will, mobile devices and stuff will be the primary source for the layman, as it were, who don't actually work on the computer?
Well, I think it's already going that way. There's a lot of studies, and forgive me, I can't name them off right away, but there are a lot of studies that say that mobile usage, mobile surfing on the web, and even purchasing things, right, going to Amazon.com and buying stuff on your mobile device, that's starting to get to where it's equaling or surpassing people on desktops.
Okay.
And there's a huge group of folks that don't have any other access to the internet other than their mobile device now.
Yeah.
They don't have a computer at home, right? I don't think that the PC is going to go away. I just think maybe it's just going to change in who uses it and how they use it specifically, right? There's certain things that the little itty bitty screens are still kind of claustrophobic, and people feel very uncomfortable with them. And there's some there's something to be said about having that desktop with that much bigger screen that you can move around on. And tablets, in my mind, they've kind of plateaued a little bit, where they're not as hot as the phones are. And that's maybe why we're seeing even more push to the phablet, the phone tablet, the really huge phone that looks like you're talking on a dinner tray. Maybe that's the next logical step, is this downsizing, this meeting in the middle of the phone and the desktop kind of end up meeting in the middle somewhere.
Sure.
Or you got just a gigantic phone, perhaps. I don't know. It's every time somebody asks you to look into the future, you're 90% wrong all the time. Whenever you say that, but I think they're not going to go away. I think they're just going to change.
Okay.
In my mind.
Yeah, I can definitely.
How they're going to change, I don't know.
So when design students get into actually studying interactive design and web design and stuff like that, they're often introduced to app design and web design at the same time. Is there a big difference in the way to approach that kind of thing? I know, with iOS systems, there's very specific guidelines that you have to
patterns.
That you have to use.
Well, actually, in our program, we expose them to web design first.
Okay.
In our program we have three undergrad interactive courses. We have a Web 1, a Web 2, and a mobile app design. So that's the last one that they take. And everybody's required to take the 2 web, and they're not required to take the mobile app. As far as similarities and differences, we have a tendency to teach. We just kind of mentioned patterns there. There are web patterns as well as mobile app patterns, right? And maybe unlike a mobile app pattern, Apple's got their human interface guidelines, and Android has a similar document that kind of spells out, put this here, don't put it there, that sort of thing. There's not one company that controls the web, right?
Sure.
Like Apple does with iOS. So, but there are people writing